Hey folks, it's Dave here. Thanks for watching as always. Today I'm just going over the latest Rocket Lab news. There's been a lot of developments over the past couple weeks that I haven't really covered, and I just kind of wanted to round it all up, get all of us investors on the same page with what's been going on lately with Rocket Lab. It's a lot easier than, scouring the internet for all these different sources if you can just come here to one place. If you're new here, please do hit that subscribe button to help me out with the channel. We come back with investing videos regularly, especially on space stocks like Rocket Lab. And if you are a current subscriber, every like helps out with the algorithm. Thanks so much. With that out of the way, let's dive into what's new with Rocket Lab over the past couple weeks. So first up, the top story. Obviously, a lot of people probably already know about this one. Rocket Lab did have about $38 million of their cash on hand with SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, and they obviously went under. There was a big run on the bank just recently, and there was a lot of doubt and confusion what was going to happen with people who had deposited money into the bank. Initially, customers were only insured up to $250,000, but thankfully, after a couple days of doubt and uncertainty, the U.S. government has stepped in and said that they are backstopping the depositors at SVB. So anyone who's deposited money with the bank will be able to get their money back, including Rocket Lab. That's pretty big, although they weren't in huge danger, only about 7% of their cash, I believe. Still enough to really make a difference, and definitely very relieved that they'll be able to see that money back. Now, do keep in mind this doesn't constitute a full bailout of the bank, just the depositors, people who were banking with them. But the bank itself, their shareholders, ownership, they're not getting bought out. It's really just the depositors. So it's not really a bailout per se, just kind of backstopping the depositors and making sure we can have confidence in the banking system, which is extremely important for the financial markets. Signature Bank was another one that also did go out of business here, and this has led to a lot of doubt and uncertainty around the entire financial markets and the whole situation going on with interest rates. So potential silver lining from this, from the perspective of investors, at least in growth and tech type companies, is that a lot of people seem to be thinking the Fed is going to be less likely to raise interest rates or raise them as high at their upcoming meeting as they were originally planning to, which in a roundabout kind of way could be good for the markets. So before, most people were projecting a 50 basis point hike for interest rates. Now, most people think 25 basis points is where we're going to land. Some people think that the Fed is unlikely to hike interest rates at all, including wealth management analyst, Moody's analyst, and this analyst down at the bottom says it's a toss-up between a 25 basis point hike and no hike at all. I do think there will be a 25 basis point hike. That's just my opinion personally. Let me know down in the comments what you think. But I think the Fed is not going to fully back off as of yet. Although this does show that there is some frailty in the banking system and perhaps they have to be more careful with these hikes. Really looking forward to when the interest rates start heading back in the downward direction. I think that'll really help with Rocket Lab as well as other stocks. Continuing on to some analyst updates, we have Deutsche Bank, first of all. Edison Yu, who's interviewed Peter Beck a few times before, seems like a pretty smart analyst, lowered his price target on Rocket Lab from $12 to $10, although he is still maintaining a buy rating on the shares. Not too surprising, really. I find these analysts often kind of chase the price of their stocks that they follow. So obviously we're way down in the threes right now and less likely to get up past $12 per share by the end of the year. And this is a 1-year price target. So the analysts want to look right, and often they tend to follow the price a little bit. He did say that weaker margins this year are now anticipated due to pressure from Neutron development spend and ongoing Solera restructuring. Nothing we haven't heard before from Rocket Lab management themselves, saying that this narrative will certainly turn off some investors, but it is necessary to the future of the company. So overall, he at least is still bullish on Rocket Lab with a $10 price target by the end of the year. Another update on March 2nd from Cohen & Co. They kept their buy rating on Rocket Lab as well. They have an $8 price target representing over 100% gain from our current share price. And then just rounding up a few others we have here, Wells Fargo with a hold, 5.5, updated 9 days ago. Cohen & Co. we already mentioned. Morgan Stanley with a $10 price target 14 days ago. Credit Suisse with a sell, actually 250. They're the lone sell of the companies following Rocket Lab. And Ronald Epstein, Bank of America Securities, with a buy, $13 per share. So obviously quite bullish on the company there is Ronald Epstein. Next up, we have a Form 4 filed with the SEC. This is for Adam Spice selling shares. Whenever an insider like Adam or Peter or Rocket Lab executive sells shares, we have to get one of these forms. And we can see that 64,000 shares were sold. This comes to a dollar value amount of $271,000. Not too bad for Adam there. I was trying to find if this is due to tax reasons. Sometimes when new shares are paid out to a executive, they'll have to sell some small percentage of that just to cover the taxes. I don't think that's the case in this scenario, but let me know if you found any more information on it. From what I'm seeing, this stock was vested back in early March, so just recently. It's for compensation, and he did go ahead and sell it. So this represents a relatively small part of his overall position in the company. I'm not too sure what his compensation is structured like. So if he receives all stock from the company, certainly reasonable for him to want to liquidate some of it to be able to actually get money to, fund his life on an ongoing basis. Not something I'm too concerned about, but definitely something I would keep an eye on. We did have another Form 4 from another executive who sold recently as well. It could just be, selling shares as that's their main compensation. And again, Adam still does have a lot more shares in the company, and Peter has not been selling either. We did see Amazon showing off their new satellite internet antennas as they plan to take on SpaceX and their Starlink satellites. And now why this could be interesting for Rocket Lab is that there's a lot of speculation that our new larger reaction wheels from Sinclair are actually for Amazon's new constellation. Now, this is not substantiated, so we could be wrong on that. To me, it makes a lot of sense, and it could very well be true. If that's the case, it's a very big customer for Rocket Lab, and we're going to start to see these satellites launch in 2024, which lines up pretty well with their manufacturing expansion and their new larger reaction wheels. So good to see that these test antennas and test satellites are taking shape for Amazon's Project Cooper. After that, we did have NASA Administrator Bill Nelson actually visiting Rocket Lab's facilities in New Zealand. A bit of a vote of confidence from NASA, perhaps a good sign that there's a great relationship between Rocket Lab and NASA. Always nice to see him talking to the Rocket Lab staff, and perhaps a sign that we will continue to get more NASA contracts in the future, that is a valued partnership with Rocket Lab. Following that, we do have a bunch of new military launch contracts from National Security Space Launch Program. They have announced a bunch of new funding, and it does look like Rocket Lab will be in line to get some of it, although a lot of players will. And it really seems like they're starting to support the commercial space launch industry more, which is great to see. So launch of the National Security Program appears to finally recognize the booming U.S. commercial launch industry, and they've made significant change to accommodate more companies as opposed to just, a few old school companies. So it's created a couple new lanes for these launches. Lane 1 is probably what we're most interested in for Rocket Lab. These missions will be awarded during a 5-year period from 2025 to 2029, with satellites mostly flying to low Earth orbit and missions that are more risk tolerant. So if they do go wrong, it's not entirely the end of the world. and they can tolerate those risks for newer vehicles. The goal is to provide an opportunity for companies developing new medium lift rockets to enter the competition. This includes Rocket Lab with its Neutron rocket, Relativity with its Terran R vehicle, and ABL Space, which is not named or announced a vehicle. Hopefully we can see more contracts for Neutron coming out of this. I think they are furthest along in development in their medium launch vehicle, at least compared to Relativity and ABL, who have both suffered setbacks as of late. Next up, we do finally have a 10K form filed from Rocket Lab with the SEC. This is their annual report that gets filed every year. It's extremely long, a lot of information in it. I haven't had the chance to go through all of it yet, but I plan to in the future. This was actually delayed, and Rocket Lab did file a notice with the SEC to let them know that it was going to be delayed, but it is out now if you want to take a look and dive through it. I'll be doing that shortly myself. Now, we do have 2 upcoming launches, one each from the 2 different launch complexes, and we unfortunately had another delay from the United States launch complex at NASA Wallops. Due to strong level upper winds, we delayed on March 11th. Seems to be becoming a bit of a theme from Wallops right now anyways, where they often have these high winds that are delaying launches. A little frustrating to see, but we are seeing that they are now planning for Thursday, March 16th. For their next launch attempt, aka tomorrow. So we are seeing that there is 90% favorable chance for good weather conditions for this launch to go off, and I really hope that we do get a successful launch tomorrow. Feel bad for all you guys who may have made the trek out to watch the launch only to have it scrubbed. Hopefully we have better luck tomorrow. In terms of the following launch, we do have the Beat Goes On coming up from New Zealand as well. That's scheduled for March this year. We don't have an exact date yet, but it shouldn't be too far from now either. We have Tropics coming up as well as several other launches in the future. So, and then just rounding out, I figured I'd share some of my trades that I've made lately. So I did just do a couple put options. I don't have a ton of cash right now, but I usually like to do something when we see Rocket Lab dropping below $4 per share. So I sold a couple puts, and basically what this means is first one here is a $3 put. So if on April 21st Rocket Lab is below $3 per share, I'll have to buy it for $3 per share. For this, I got $100. Not too much because the odds of it getting executed are so low. Personally, I think it highly likely I'm just going to be able to keep the $100 and not buy any stocks from that. Hopefully it'll, cover a grocery bill or something. It all helps. And then this one more likely to be executed, but still a decent chance it isn't. On April 21st, I have a $4 put, which I received about $350 for. So that would bring down my cost basis a bit. So if I do get executed, I'll be buying it at about $3.65 per share, which I think is quite cheap. If I do end up buying it, I'm fine with it. If it does go above $4 by April 21st, then I just get the $350 and I don't have to buy anything. I do this because I don't have a ton of cash to deploy in terms of new long-term shares. I like to do these options, and if I get put it, then I'll buy it and go from there. But just my way of generating some cash off of these low share prices. I'm pretty confident that we're kind of in this range for Rocket Lab, and I don't see us dropping $3 or below. So hopefully I'll make some cash in there. Let me know down in the comments below if you've bought any shares lately, how many and what they cost you, and what that brings your average cost to. Always love to hear it down in. So that's it for today. Really, the big story is a big relief that Rocket Lab will not be losing that money from SVB Bank. Not too shocking that the government would want to backstop that and make sure there's confidence in our banking system as we go through these interest rate hikes. We can see that Credit Suisse looks like it might be in trouble now, and something similar would probably happen with them if so. Let me know what you think of the state of the overall markets. It seems like it's a lot of uncertainty right now. It's anyone's guess, really, as to where the markets head from here. Hopefully that'll keep you up to date on all the latest news with Rocket Lab. I'll be back with a new video shortly. Hope you have a great week. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.